Hello, Yuma. How are you?
Very well, Macarena. Thank you for inviting me to this show today. I always appreciate being associated with ICA in your beautiful work around the world.
Thank you so much, Yuma. I know that you are a very busy person, but your mission, your background, and your work is very relevant to highlight for the audience. So if you may, I will start reading your biography and then we start with the interview.
Okay, very well.
So Juma Assiago is an urbanist and social science, a graduate in sustainable urban development from Oxford University. He currently coordinates the Global Safer Cities program at UN Habitat. He has 20 years of experience working in program development and implementation of citywide crime prevention and urban safety strategies in Africa, Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Eastern Europe, as well as built a global network on safer cities, which includes partners and cities as well from North America, Western Europe, Oceania, in addition to the continents in the developing world. A key outcome of the 25 years of work of the Safer Cities program has been the shift in thinking as to how to deliver safety in cities, away from a police and criminal justice system only approach to one that sees the co-production of safety with local governments as the coordinators and citizens as the key actors. A key achievement of this new thinking for governments to invest in has been the adoption of UN system-wide guidelines on safer settlements last May 2019. Oh, Yuma, that's an excellent biography. Congratulations for that.
Thank you, thank you. It's been 25 years to get there.
I know, a very long path, much energy, but also much success because you achieved so many relevant goals. And let's start from the beginning, Yuma. How did you know about CPTED?
Well, first and foremost, I learned about CPTED, of course, at the onset of my work in UN Habitat, interacting with the Safe Cities discourse, where situational prevention was part and parcel of the broader city safety policy and programming. I learned that at that point of time about the very specific approach of CPTED, which of course would be dear to UN Habitat, given the agency's focus on the built environment. And this is precisely where my journey started. And through that, of course, as Habitat also was clearly a partnership-driven agency, I also then began to interact with the actors that are major in this field. And the International CPTED Association, of course, was one of them. A couple of universities around the world too had the advocacy on this CPTED approach. And indeed, as we interacted through our global urban platforms, CPTED was indeed a key focus of our discussions. So yes, this is where I got to really emphasize and learn more about CPTED in practice.
And why it is so relevant to achieve urban safety with environmental variables involved? Why it is so relevant in your opinion?
Well, first and foremost, safety has been really a space of real evolution in terms of the way the world has approached issues of quality of life. You could see clearly over the past 40, 50 years that safety has started to receive greater attention as a significant urban phenomenon. We also have seen the prominence of cities beginning to function more and more as engines of economic growth. And with this, also social prosperity and democracy. And that only happens if the inhabitants feel safe to take part in the city build, in the economic, social, political, or cultural life of the city. So as we saw crime and violence since the 60s becoming even a greater concern for residents in urban areas, we also then globally have seen two general approaches that have been developed by governments, one more repressive and the other one more preventive. So for Habitat, as an agency that has really got to do with sustainable urban development, one of the key focuses in 1996 at the Habitat 2 Summit was to move the environment from the agenda from simply housing and the built environment to one that incorporated the living environment. It was in that perspective that safety became an issue of better urban governance, better urban management, and better urban planning. And key, of course, when you looked at the kind of discourses like Jen Jacobs that try to challenge the whole sphere of urban planning, UN Habitat comes into this conversation on safer cities, appreciating such discourses to take the work of safety beyond just the policing and criminal justice precinct to one that makes people, citizens, as the key agents of change, and also to see the built environment as an opportunity to really enhance participatory planning and design of cities. So this is precisely an area that UN Habitat came to the fore to embrace concepts around CPTED. And I think the social call for safer cities and urban spaces is now clearly voiced, where crime approach is seen as a common responsibility for all, and with local governments as the lead in the co-production process for safety for all, local governments understood as planning authorities. Now, our Safer Cities approach, of course, has tried to build the capacity of cities to really develop municipal plans for safety that are citywide, that are comprehensive, that are community-oriented, that are partnership-driven, multi-sectoral, which is very key, and integral. And with this, of course, CPTED is a key associate of these principles that we bear in mind in the progressive development of urban safety in human settlements and cities, with the culture of prevention at the center. So that's
right.
Yeah.
You're right, Juma, and it's beautiful that you highlight that idea of the participatory process, how to empower communities and construct together the urban security and safety that we all need in this planet that is facing so many crises. And I also believe that the Safer Cities program and CPTED are natural allies. So I am very glad that you highlight that. And in that sense, can you highlight also your role, because you have been so active working in so many countries?
Yes, indeed. I have played, first and foremost, I joined in as an urban safety expert of the Safer Cities program, and I grew later to be the global coordinator of the Safer Cities program. My role has basically been twofold. One, which is more normative, which means developing tools, developing the knowledge and managing the knowledge that has to do with the new thinking and the new way of looking at safety, revealing the principles governing the layout, functionality, and management of urban spaces, looking at safety as a determinant of the quality of life of cities, and of course, bringing in the issues of not just the incidences of crime and violence, but also the way people perceive and feel about safety. So normatively, my role has been to try to make urban safety become an accepted goal of urban development projects, and to provide local authorities and urban stakeholders with a greater opportunity to contribute to changing the face of cities for the better. So that normatively is the new thinking that we have been bringing, that I have also participated in bringing about in the global scenario. But more importantly, secondly, is the operational aspect, where I've actually taken these tools and applied them in cities around the world, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia Pacific, in Eastern Europe, where a general appreciation of the approach of safety from the prevention of urban crime has been acknowledged, and where cities have built in policies and programs and institutionalized technical teams of municipal practitioners to really apply this approach. So backstopping such projects, providing technical assistance to these cities has been, in fact, for me, the best value that I have seen in terms of bringing in CPTED to bear on people and communities.
In that sense, can you describe as a successful project?
Yes, there are many across the globe. I think maybe let me pick one in Africa. Let me maybe look at one of the most progressive countries in this arena. This is South Africa, which of course you have also been to, and the city of Durban in specific. So the city of Durban, providing technical assistance to this city began way back in the year 2000, when I was in fact just simply at the start of my career in the safety era. With the city developing its local government policy on safety and the prevention of urban crime, it picked out an area-based management approach to implementing that safety strategy. And part of the area-based management approach required a sort of a focus on urban renewal. And indeed with this, there was one particular area of the city which is referred to as the Warwick Junction, which indeed has become a global conversation about how principles of better design and management of public spaces have actually improved the quality of life of people. And CPTED was indeed a key aspect of this, where we had to facilitate and implement CPTED policies, raise awareness of the application of CPTED to the relevant departments within the municipality, as well as other local stakeholders in the city. More importantly, to look at how to facilitate the intervention of CPTED to improve safety along transport routes and facilitate crime mapping exercises. So these aspects brought to bear on the communities living around the Warwick Junction, and develop the Warwick Junction Urban Renewal Project as a holistic redevelopment project that turned a problematic area into a vibrant business center and a popular tourist attraction. Understanding that this Warwick Junction, even by the name, meant that it was located along a primary transport hub. It housed informal markets set up by street vendors and traders, and a lot of unsanitary and unsafe conditions gave rise to high criminal activity and violence making the Warwick Junction a site of concern to city officials. So rather than an approach which was then so popular at that time of clearing the informal traders out of the area, um, and sort of wiping out the informal economy of the city, the CPTED approach enabled the city to work with the street traders and other key stakeholders by negotiating to improve the conditions of the area and of the people in a participatory way. And so in addition to sort of the governance aspect of traders associations coming to be established, the city also identified a section of that elevated city highway that had never been utilized and agreed to construct a bridge and a pedestrian access way along the functional hub of that traders market. Now, multi-purpose centers were created for street traders to carry out business activities. Legislative arrangements were put into place to ensure that there was no conflict and there were better ways of conflict resolution amongst the traders rather than resorting to violence and crime. And there was a marked improvement in trading, community safety, and living conditions. What's important is to note that the application of CPTED, including the improvement of lighting, it's helped to reduce the crime rates in this particular area around the period of 1997 to the year 2002. And it created also additional jobs for the local inhabitants, particularly the women traders in that area. So in a sense, looking at CPTED, it came to bear as a real approach that led to better urban redevelopment and the improvement of quality of life. So I would really stress this as one of the key practices that we have seen develop in the cities we have been in.
Thank you for sharing your case study. It's very nice to see how the environment was completely recovered, how you manage the negotiation, the environmental negotiation with the stakeholders, the communities there. So it's something very relevant to highlight because it's also a case that you can see in other regions. In South America, happens all the time, in Asia also. So it's a very relevant case. And connecting with that idea of how to apply CPTED, what do you think about the new ISO CPTED, the new standard that was launched past January in a global scale? What do you think about that?
I think this is really innovative and is indeed the way to go now to enhance the quality and consistency of policy and programming around the prevention of crime and particularly within the built environment. I think it's time to start developing based on the pilots and the case studies that have been proven to work to develop standards that now can be taken up as a standard way of planning and designing urban spaces. So much so that I would like to see this ISO being appreciated and acknowledged within the governing body of member states and their ministries of urban development that come together at UN Habitat. I believe this is a breakthrough and an example of how we could actually lend to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and the new urban agenda in terms of not only realizing the accelerated action that we have been all looking for, but also to see to it that governments can actually measure and monitor the progress and report on the progress of how they're improving their cities as a functional space. So I think from UN Habitat's perspective, we very much welcome this ISO guidelines and standards. And I believe that what we now need to do is to advocate more of this within the global community, within the governmental pathways, as well as within the World Urban Forum, where this can actually be introduced as a module, as a reference for how to improve better planning and design of cities.
You're right, Juma. We are also very happy with the ISO CPTED inside the ICA teams and institution. And also, I want to ask you, with your global vision, because you are a very global leader inside the Safer Cities program, connecting with so many networks all around the world, what is the relevance, in your opinion, of ICA in a global scenario now with the ISO standard, for example?
Yes, I think ICA provides the platform for sharing and exchanging lessons learned from successful innovations. ICA is a community of practice, which I think is relevant to stimulate global debate, that also integrates the role of local government in the prevention of urban crime and the enhancement of urban safety. I think ICA is relevant to encourage innovative practices on how urban planning and design can be utilized to improve safety in cities and to help focus on the co-production of safety for all. I think ICA is a global thought leader in terms of how to facilitate the comparison and adaptation of new and successful practices between regions and cultures, building on the different generations of CPTED that has happened since the 60s. I count on ICA as a key partner in the global network on safer cities. And I believe as UN Habitat, I see the need for us to advance greater memoranda of understanding and build ICA as one of the key partners that accompany the UN to cities to provide the technical support required to improve safe and inclusive public spaces and places.
Thank you for your positive image about ICA. I share that with you also, and we hope we will get allies, formal allies very soon, as soon as possible. And as closing remarks, dear Juma, can you highlight some ideas for the audience?
Yes, I think what I could highlight is that we have now journeyed a long way to look at cities, not just as people arriving, cities designed where people just arrive and participate and leave, but we now look at cities for people rather than people for cities. Now, this new concept is one where we can understand that CPTED principles and approaches really empower the citizen as a key actor of change in his neighborhood or in her neighborhood, looking at public space as really the platform to enhance safety as a public good. We now have reached that moment where the normative thinking that has come around CPTED enables us to look at public space availability, use, and access in very concrete terms, in terms of how citizens can innovate and build urban development for more social urbanism ways and from tactical urbanism ways, which indeed for me is the way we really need to see the real production of safety in our cities. I would encourage the CPTED community to take advantage of this realization and to see to it that the new urban agenda has already called for the integration of crime prevention into broader urban strategies and interventions, in slum upgrading, in broader urban renewal projects in housing, land, infrastructure, and basic services approaches. And we should use this commitment that member states have given through the new urban agenda to ensure that CPTED is understood in broader city development and growth strategies, is also included within the national urban policy frameworks, and takes advantage of the UN system-wide guidelines on safer cities and human settlements to percolate across the different UN agencies and programs to take this work to scale. So this is my call to the CPTED community, and I really would like to work with you on this path and to see to it that CPTED becomes really more integrated into the way sustainable urban development rolls out, building not just on the risk aspect of cities, but on the social capital of cities. This is where I would like to emphasize our vision to the year 2030 and to the Secretary General's Decade Campaign for Action. Finally, I will also encourage CPTED communities to take advantage of the Urban Month of October, and particularly the 40 Days Safer Cities Challenge, to ensure that in each of those days, from the International Day of Peace to the World Cities Day, we have some very innovative practice on CPTED being highlighted for member states and for the global community of local government mayors and cities to see and to appreciate.
Thank you, Juma. It's so relevant, your message, and for all the CPTED community that is our audience. Thank you so much again for your bright ideas, for your wisdom, for your experience and commitment with the CPTED practice in so many regions of the world. And I hope to see you soon when it is possible again. And my friend Juma, stay safe.
Stay safe too. Keep safe from the COVID-19 pandemic.